Hi everyone, welcome to the tutorial. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to do two-colour brioche when working a flat piece of knitting. Hopefully you've already watched my video on how to do one-colour brioche in a flat piece of knitting. If not, I would recommend watching that video first and then coming back to this one because we'll be building on the techniques that were discussed there. Two-colour brioche is really fun because on one side of our fabric, every knit column will be a certain colour and every purl column will be a different colour. Then on the reverse side of our fabric, all of the knit columns have the colour that the purl columns did on the previous side, and all the purl columns are the colour of the previous side's knit columns. It's like a bit of reversible magic. When working one colour brioche, you can actually use any style of needle that you like. But when you're working two-colour brioche, you must use either double-pointed needles or a circular needle, and you'll see why in just a little bit. I'm using a circular needle because it will best accommodate this number of stitches. Let's jump right into things and take a look at the first row of instructions for two-colour brioche. My instructions say to knit one, slip one yarn over, all the way to my last stitch, then knit one. At this stage, I'm setting up my yarn overs, and the stitches in between are plain knit stitches because they don't yet have yarn overs either. We already know how to do this setup row from our one colour brioche. So just ensure you're working with the colour you want the knit columns on this side of your fabric to be, holding a tail of that colour at the back of your work for the first few stitches if you're needing to add it in from scratch, and then away we go. At the end of my row, my pattern says, do not turn work. It says to slide my stitches to the other end of my circular needle to work across this side of them once more. To do that, just grab onto your live stitches and push them all the way to the other end of the needle. Then you can work the stitches this way again. I'm now going to use the colour that I want the knit columns on the reverse side of my fabric to have, and also the purl columns on this side of my fabric. This row starts with a slip one purlwise with yarn in back. I'll hold my yarn back here, then slip the edge stitch purlwise. Now we come across another new abbreviation, which is BRP1, and this stands for brioche purl 1. This is incredibly similar to our brioche knit one. We're just going to be purling rather than knitting to work the next stitch and its yarn over together as one stitch. I'll bring the yarn to the front of my work by passing it under the right hand needle, and then I'll insert my needle purlwise into both the next stitch and its yarn over together. And then just complete a purl stitch like normal. That's all there is to a brioche purl 1. Now I need to slip one yarn over, and it'll be a little different this time because after our purl stitch, the yarn is already at the front of our work. That means we don't need to bring it to the front of our work, and we can go ahead and slip the next stitch purlwise. Then we will need to take the yarn to the back of our work by passing it over the top of the needle to form the yarn over. We're going to repeat now from the brioche purl 1. So this is when we bring the yarn to the front of our work by passing it under the right hand needle, then purl the next stitch and its yarn over together. Now we slip one yarn over. The yarn is already at the front of our work, so we just go ahead and slip the next stitch purlwise, then bring the yarn to the back of our work by passing it over the top of the right hand needle. Keep repeating those steps to the last two stitches of the row. Brioche purl 1, slip one yarn over, brioche purl 1, slip one yarn over. Now our second to last stitch is a brioche purl one, and then my pattern says to leave this yarn at the front of my work. So I'm just going to drop it from my hand like this. And then it says to slip the last stitch purlwise with yarn in front. My yarn is at the front now that I've dropped it, so just slip the final stitch purlwise like this. Phew, we've now completed 2 rows of our 2-colour brioche. We're going to work another 2 rows with the reverse side of our knitted fabric facing us. This time, just flip your fabric around without sliding the stitches to the other end of the needle. Okay, time for our next row. I'm switching back to my first colour now, and the row begins with a purl one, so I'll do that normally. Then I have a slip-on yarn over. Again, my yarn is already at the front of my work, so I don't need to move it there. I can just go ahead and slip the next stitch, and then take the yarn to the back of my work to complete the yarn over. Then we have a brioche purl one, so bring the yarn to the front by passing it under the needle, and purl the next stitch and its yarn over together. And now we'll keep repeating by working a slip-on yarn over, brioche purl one, slip one yarn over, brioche purl one, all the way to the last 2 stitches. Then slip one yarn over, and the last stitch is a purl one, so bring the yarn to the front and purl it. Now again, my pattern tells me not to turn my work and to instead slide my stitches to the other end of my circular needle. So we'll do that. And we're going to work across this side of the stitches once more. We'll switch to our second colour, which in the current setup is at the back of our work. And this row starts with a slip-on purlwise with yarn in back. So just leave the yarn there at the back and slip the first stitch purlwise. Then we'll brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, and keep repeating that to the last 2 stitches. The second to last stitch is a brioche knit one. Then my pattern asks me to leave my yarn where it is at the back. So I'll drop it and then slip the last stitch purlwise with the yarn in back as the current setup is. So just slip the stitch like this. We have heaps of repetition now to work the rest of our 2-colour brioche fabric. Changing back to my first colour, the next row tells me to knit one, then slip one yarn over, brioche knit one to the last 2 stitches. And I know how to do that from my 1-colour brioche. So just slip one yarn over, brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, brioche knit one. Then the second to last stitch is a slip one yarn over, and the final stitch is a knit one. We need to slide our stitches to the other end of the needle so we can work across this side once more. We'll switch to our second colour and we slip one purlwise with yarn in front, which is where our yarn is correctly sitting. And we brioche purl one, slip one yarn over, brioche purl one, slip one yarn over, all the way to the last 2 stitches. then brioche purl one, drop the yarn at the front of the work, and then slip the final stitch purlwise with the yarn in front because that's where we're leaving it. We turn our work around, return to our first colour, and start the next row with a purl one. Then slip one yarn over, brioche purl to the last 2 stitches. Then slip one yarn over and purl the last stitch. Again, we'll slide our stitches to the other end of our needle to work across this side of them once more. Switching to my second colour, I'll slip the first stitch purlwise with my yarn in back, and with the current setup, that's exactly where my yarn already is, so just go ahead and slip the stitch. Then brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, and repeat to the last 2 stitches. Then brioche knit one, drop your yarn where it is at the back, and then slip the last stitch purlwise with the yarn in back. Those last 4 rows, one pair of rows with one side of our fabric facing us, and then another pair of rows with the second side of our fabric facing us, will form the rest of our 2-colour brioche fabric. So just keep repeating them for as long as your pattern tells you. I want to bring to your attention that the final time you work the last row, your pattern may instead ask you to bring your yarn to the front by passing it under the needle, then slip the last stitch purlwise with yarn in front. And that's just so you can either do something specific with that colour in your upcoming instructions, or so that the section of 2-colour brioche will end with all the yarns finishing on the same side, and you can weave them all in on that side of the fabric. And that's how we work 2-colour brioche for a flat piece of knitting. Thank you so much for watching the tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.